Hey everyone, welcome back to Embroidery Tutorials, where we are stitching through circle number 5 out of 7 on my 90 variation chain stitch sampler. Today we're going to touch on two similar stitches that can seem a little tricky at first but aren't too hard to master. This will be knotted chain stitch and knotted cable chain stitch. As the names imply, they are variations on those originals, chain and cable chain, adding a sort of anchoring knot to one end. What I find interesting about these is that knotted chain stitch ends up looking so much different than regular chain that I kind of question how they're related, while knotted cable chain stitch looks so much like regular cable chain that I kind of question what the point of the variation is. Welcome to embroidery related confusion. Let's get started. Don't be thrown off by this stitch if your first attempt looks more like coral stitch, a row of straight stitches with knots sprinkled throughout. The chain loops are in there, and you can see them best if you do this stitch very small and close together. The more you stretch it out, the longer you make your stitches, the less it will look like proper knotted chain stitch. Choose any side of the triangle that you please, and start by coming up through the fabric on the line. Go back down one short stitch length away, slightly to the inside or right of the line. Then come back up slightly on the outside or left of the line. You should have this little slightly diagonal stitch. Slide your needle under that stitch from right to left. Then with your needle still under the stitch, loop the tail of your thread around the tip of the needle. You are looping the thread over the needle towards you, then under the needle away from you. Draw the needle all the way through to create this little knot, but don't yank it super tight. You want just a bit of slack in there to open up as you pull this knot upward into the next stitch. Go back down through the fabric slightly on the inside of the line, and now you are starting your second stitch. You can see how creating that diagonal straight stitch has ever so slightly pulled the knot open to create a little bit of a loop, which is why I guess it looks related to chain stitch. Continue creating these loose knots connected by straight stitches, keeping them small and close together. When you get to the end, just go back down through the fabric and tie off your thread. Next up, we're covering knotted cable chain stitch. There's a similar method to the stitching here, but a pretty different look in the end. Again, we are coming up on the line at the point of the triangle, then going back down slightly to the inside of the line. This time though, we are going to use that slide method of sewing and come back up on the outside of the line, leaving the needle in the fabric. Wrap the tail of your thread around the tip of your needle, going over the needle towards you and under the needle away from you, then pull the needle all the way through, creating a little knot. Take the needle back down through the fabric on the right side of this knot, as close as possible to where you originally went down, then come up through the fabric one stitch length away, going through the loop of thread you created, just like you would in regular chain stitch. The place you come up at this point can shift the final look of your stitches a little. If you like a bit of a zigzag look to this stitch, come up more to the outside of the line. But if you want it to be straighter, come up right on the line itself. From there, you're moving on to the next stitch, starting with the diagonal straight stitch again, then the knot, then the chain loop, and so on right to the end. I'm just going to cover the top 2 sides of my triangle with these 2 stitches, but if you want a little extra practice, feel free to carry on across the bottom of the triangle too. And that's it for today. If you're having any trouble with these stitches, make sure you're stitching in the same direction as I do in the video to make it easier. You can also try using larger thread, like a cotton pearl, and of course, you can always leave any questions you may have in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you back here next time to explore a few fun variations of feather stitch.